An audio experience best enjoyed in stereo. The Huckleberry Show!
Welcome to the Huckleberry Show, the lifestyle and society conversation. I'm your Huckleberry John Claborn. Today we've got a special episode on the spelling contest. Because the spelling contest, these games might not be for you. The review of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for Nintendo Switch. So let's start this review first of all by saying, spoiler, this is a spoiler review. If you do not want this game spoiled in any form or fashion, pull out your earbuds, hit mute, hit stop, do something. Here we go. So, what is my history with the Xenoblade series? Let me start with that. I first played Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on the 3DS. That was back, it wasn't even right when it came out either. It was like in October or something like that of 2017 maybe? No, 2016, something like that. So I played it on 3DS, fell in love. Now, it was my first time playing a Xenoblade game, so I had no frame of reference. And I must say, looking back now, that little tiny screen did not do that game justice whatsoever. But I still fell in love with it somehow. I played through the whole game. I did the whole Colony 9, the whole Colony 6 quest lines, built up the town and everything. So, I mean, I fell in love with this game. I must have put at least 150 hours into the 3DS version of this game. And like I said, it was not easy. That tiny screen did not do this giant world justice. So, with that being said, as soon as the Switch came out, I bought the Switch. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out. Oh my goodness. It was like December of 2017. And again, I must have put at least 200 hours on my first run through the game. And accumulating now today, I've played through the game probably about 3 or 4 times now. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I have probably put about 500 hours into. Played the whole Torna expansion and everything. So it's safe to say I'm a very big Xenoblade Chronicles fan at this point. I have not played Xenoblade Chronicles X. That was only on the Wii U. So I'm hoping they bring that over. But let's get into this review. So let's start with the graphics and the sound. So jumping into Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This is a remaster, a refresh of the original game that came out on the Wii and the 3DS. The graphics and the sound are very much improved. Now, they use the same graphics engine that they used for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So you can definitely tell there's the character models, just the way the world kind of populates without having to use load times and things like that. Very, very, very much came from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it feels like it. But I must say that the graphic fidelity of this game is phenomenal. This might be the best looking Xenoblade Chronicles game we have gotten to date. The other games came out on the Wii U. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was like their first outing. And over 2 years, 3 years, they have like mastered their engine. They have very much improved it. So Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is the best looking Xenoblade graphics wise. It is very, very good. A lot of people complain about the resolution in handheld mode. A lot of people complain about how the resolution is dynamic. Even in docked mode, how it'll sometimes jump up, jump down, depending on how much is going on the screen. But I mean, I didn't notice it enough to be like, oh, well, there it is right there. Yep, there it is right there. I hardly actually noticed it when it actually did it. The sound, a lot of the sound came from the original game. All the voiceovers are the original sound files from the first iteration of the game. So nothing changed there. which was great because the voice acting in this game was pretty spot on. Like Shulk was really, his screams are probably some of the best in RPGs. Like, I'll kill you. Like, dang, you felt it. Like, woo. Like, boy was angry. And then just the whole Ryan and his accent, like, it's Ryan time. Like, come on, man. I was so glad they didn't replace that. So all the voiceovers are from the original. Now I will have to say that I was a little bit disappointed with the battle and combat sound effects. I really didn't feel too much of an impact. Like the way you swinging the Monado around, it kind of sounds like he's swinging like a lightsaber almost. Like it just kind of whiffs and cuts through enemies with no real like impact sound. And I was really hoping for a little bit more of an upgrade into the combat sounds because they kind of really didn't sound like the music almost drowned it out. And the voices, how they have all this talking in combat, it all drowned out the actual clashing of the weapons and things like that and the spell sounds. And that was a bit disappointing. But other than that, the sounds and the music, oh my gosh. They said they remastered a few tracks. They didn't remaster all of them, but the ones that they did remaster, they sounded all right. I mean, it's an orchestra, a lot of guitars and things like that. So it's kind of really hard to tell what sounds actually better. But the original sounds, the original music still sounds great. Like it's just phenomenal. Like the Xenoblade series has some of the best video game soundtracks hands down. I mean, that's not just fanboy or anything. That's a musical statement. So getting into the controls, they're good, but my thing is each Xenoblade game is different. So every time you play a different Xenoblade game, your controls are different. So I mean, you have to adjust to it, but the controls were fine. The only thing I had a little bit slight issue with was like the characters, the way they walked around seemed a little bit too floaty to me. Like they didn't seem like, you didn't hear the footsteps hitting hard on the pavement, and it didn't seem like gravity was weighing them down too much. They kind of just floated around a little bit. Now you could say that about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but it was a little bit more so in this game. Also selecting some of the arts, I was actually having a little bit of trouble at the end game when the action was getting real heated and you had to go from one art that was like on the left side and quickly dash over to an art on the right side. Even if I organized them into a way that kind of fit a little bit better, you still had to just go back and forth across this whole art bar. And I fat fingered a few arts a couple of times where if I hit left one too many times and I hit the art right next to it and wasted it, or just did a whole animation that actually got me killed because I was doing the wrong art during the wrong, trying to counter the boss, and I'm doing the wrong art, and the animation is like 4 seconds long, and it just ended up killing me because I couldn't switch it out in time. But I mean, the controls themselves, like this game packs a lot. This game packs a lot into these buttons. So, I mean, kudos for them to be able to get everything so fluid. You got camera controls, you got combat controls, you got arts, you got menus you have to navigate. And, you only have so many buttons on these controllers these days. And just for this game to be this complex and still be able to fit everything kind of comfortably in this controller scheme was top notch. Like they really, really like ironed out how to control this game. I want to say, does the Switch have more buttons than the Wii and the Wii U? I'm trying to think. I definitely know it has more buttons than the Wii, but you can get the Pro Controller, which pretty much looks like exactly like the Pro Controller for the Switch. So maybe you had to use the Pro Controller on the Wii. I don't know how they would even do that. I might have to get a Wii and try it. Going into the gameplay mechanics. Okay. So you have quests and stuff in this game. So starting with the quests, I mean, I think I looked it up. There's like 480 quests in this game. Now, mind you, most of them are a lot of like fetch quests and just like kill 5 mobs and come back kind of quests. But the way the quests were structured, I didn't mind, because what they did was like, this world is so massive that these quests just sent you almost in every corner of whatever map you were in at the current time. So your exploration was just off the charts. You were just walking around, you were looking at things, you were going off into nooks and crannies, finding the items and killing the mobs you needed for these quests. And it just sent you all over the world. And it was just, I mean, the quests themselves, like they weren't nothing, they weren't anything to write home about. But the function of having them send you out into the world was excellent. The characters, Ryan, Shulk, Fiora, Sharla, Melia, Dunban, and Riki. Those are your main characters that you're going to be playing. Spoiler alert, Fiora comes back. Like, you play 2 different versions of Fiora, which is cool, which is understandable considering the story. And I do appreciate that each character plays a lot differently from each other. So you're able to switch it out and the combat never gets stale. It's almost strategic in a way. Like, if I switch out, instead of playing Shulk for the fight, maybe I played Riki and made sure his dots were up and make sure his damage over time, make sure he was blowing his healing, because he has like a directional heal. So you have to point it the right way. And sometimes the computer wouldn't point it the right way. So if I played Riki, maybe I get my heals off better. So it was strategic in switching out your characters and playing different characters through the whole game, instead of playing one main character the whole time or having one main team. Because even the story doesn't let you do that. Sometimes the story will remove people from your party, and then you're forced to play with whoever is left, whoever stayed around, and then, people coming in and out of your party through the whole course of the story. So it was vital to keep everybody, equipped, make sure all their arts were leveled up and things like that. So I love that aspect of the gameplay, and that, it made you manage everybody. You weren't just able to just get by and just play as 2-3 of them and that's it. The arts themselves, I love the choice of the arts. Like, each character except for Shulk, each character had like just a plethora of arts to choose from that customized them. So sometimes Ryan, like, you can totally tank him out and have just a tank Ryan, and then sometimes I would have Dunban in the party, but then I'd like Ryan too, so he would be like my backup tank, but also give him some damage arts, so that way he's doing a lot more damage. He's got a lot of AoE attacks, so you can put him in for like just a bunch of AoE attacks and just clean up mobs while Dunban does the tanking. Some characters have different healing arts, so you can have some people off heal, while Sharla is clearly the main healer of the game, but you can have other people just chip in on the healing and give them a couple of arts for that. So I love the strategic element of having a bunch of arts for each character and having to switch them out for different fights. The skill tree, I think the skill tree was the weakest element of the whole gameplay mechanics, because it was an automatic skill tree. Like, you basically set which tree to level up, and if you ignored it, it would just level up and keep going down the tree and automatically go into the next one as you got enough, experience. What did they call it? SP points, skill points for the skill tree. But it was just automatic. So I wouldn't even read half of the skills. By the time I got through some of them, I forgot about the skill tree, and it leveled up like 2 of them for me automatically. So I would just switch to the next tree. But I kind of totally didn't even read some of the skills that these characters had, and it just felt weak, like, as in it didn't require me to micromanage it, so I didn't pay attention to it. And then I didn't notice the buffs. Then if I didn't read the skill tree, I wasn't noticing the buffs. So skill tree, the weakest, I think, out of all the mechanics. Now the weapons and the armor and the items, those were dope. There was a lot of variations. Like I said, you could give Ryan a tanking weapon, or he can have an attack weapon with some crit and stuff, or the tanking weapons have block and whatnot on it. Now, unfortunately, Shulk only has the Monado the whole game, but all the other characters have a plethora of different weapons and armor that they can put on. And not only that, but you can have say one helmet drops, and it's a particular helmet. Well, a next one might drop and you might get another one, but this one might have a bonus slot on it, or this one might have upgraded stats over than the other one. So not only do you get a piece of gear, but you might get a better version of that same piece of gear if you keep going and keep going and keep looking, maybe farm a little bit. So that aspect of it was very, very cool in that, it kept me having to keep an eye on my equipment and my inventory and make sure everybody had the most top-notch, versions of gear on at all times. So that was a thumbs up for sure. The gem system was cool. You have to really get down and get comfortable with crafting gems and whatnot and learning, how the flames and all that stuff work to create the gems that you want. Because sometimes you can create a level 3 gem and just ramp it up and create a level 4 gem. And if you really get 3 or 4 stacks on it, I think if you get it to 300, you can get it upgraded and then it splits into 2 of them. So you can get real deep on the gem crafting and get real good at it and just produce some crazy gems and just get OP in this game. The combat in the game, I'm going to go into the combat, it's very fast paced. It's not fast as in Astral Chain or, a Bayonetta game, but it's faster paced than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And that it's a lot more action oriented. In Xenoblade, there's a lot of pausing, stopping, just waiting for auto attacks to happen, watching animations and stuff. And in this one, you're constantly going to the next start. You're constantly watching what your teammates are doing. You're constantly looking at the boss and countering him with the Monado powers and whatnot, and then constantly managing the Monado if you're playing Shulk. So the action is very, very fast paced in this game for a Xenoblade game, and I actually liked it. The boss fights were very challenging because of this. You really had to pay attention to what the bosses were doing and to counter at the right times with the right arts. Otherwise, they would one-shot you, literally. Just one-shot you. I've fought some bosses 2, 3, 4, 5 times before I'm okay, blue, he's doing the blue lights, or he's doing you watch for the animation, and then right before they do the animation, you learn okay, I gotta bust this art by the time this animation is done. So the boss fights and the combat, thumbs up. Now the story, I don't know if you've ever played a Xenoblade Chronicles game, but these stories are freaking epic. I'm telling you, these stories. Okay, it's like a coming of age story basically. So you got Shulk and Ryan, they got dreams of killing the Mechon and freeing their people, and they thought that was all there was to it. Just kill the Mechon and everything will be fine. But as they go along, they learn that whoa, this whole thing is way bigger than we thought. This world goes deep. This lore goes deep. The history of everything going on right now goes far back than we thought. So as you are progressing in this story, it is unfolding, and then you're starting to see the magnitude of the story and what these guys have gotten themselves into. Oh man, I thought we were just gonna kill this faced Mechon and avenge our friend, and that was it. No, bro. No, now you're talking about saving the freaking universe. How did you go from this little town, little colony 9, to freaking saving the universe? So the story and the lore, and it's just so good in that, it just ties everything together, where there was just plot twists in every chapter, and just every chapter added to it, where you're just I thought that was it. I thought that was all there was to this story. And then they just added a whole nother layer to it. And you're just holy crap. Hold on, let me think about. And now you're totally looking at each character totally different as the story goes on. This character you thought was a good guy, now he's a bad guy. This character you thought was a good guy, he's still a good guy, but not in a good way that you thought. And so, people not Dunban, but not Duncan. What is his name? Dang it. You know who I'm talking about. Zanza's disciple. Where he was the old man who you thought he rescued Shulk at the beginning, and you thought he was a good guy the whole time. You thought he was on your side, and then it turns out he'd been working for the bad guys the whole time. And you're just oh my gosh, I did not see that coming. So things like that. And then the guys you thought were the bad guys, you're fighting them and you're almost killing them. And then he's telling his story and you're just like, oh shit, maybe I'm the bad guy. Maybe we're the bad guys here. Oops. So, the story is why you play a Xenoblade Chronicles game. The story in this game is just phenomenal. Like, that's what hooked me the first time on the 3DS. The graphics, I mean, damn. Like I said, that small screen didn't do it, but damn, the story in this game, excellent. So for post-game content, like, what is it? Okay, I put in, I think it was 85 hours to beat this game. And then you're like, okay, now what? What do you do now? Well, in this game, they've got Future Connected. It's a prologue, and that added about 15 hours. So that gave me another 15 hours of gameplay after I was done beating it. And I beat that, and that was phenomenal in itself. It added on to what Shulk did after the fact. It was like the events played out a year later after you beat the game. So it added to the story, and it gave Melia a nice, deep, rich history and just fleshed out her character really nice. They actually did get the voice actors for those two, and that might be why they're the only two that show up in the prologue with any voice acting from the original cast, because those two are the original. And you can tell that it is 10 years after the fact. You can tell Shulk, he sounds a little more mature, maybe just because the voice actor aged by 10 years, which works out. Like, it works out. Like, you go through something like a Xenoblade Chronicles story, that's going to change you. That's going to mature you a bit. So it's kind of expected that Shulk would sound a lot more mature in the prologue. And I noticed that, and I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just the nature of the voice actor aging, but it was a nice addition either way. The Bionis, you got to see the Bionis shoulder. I don't know if that was really like a big deal in the main story. I kind of missed where they thought, but you could see it. It's one of those things where if you look around the world, like, you see it. When you're in Alchemoth, you can see the Bionis shoulder, and you can see that you can't go there, and then that you never go there during the course of the game. So during this prologue, you get to go there, and then you get to see the opposite. You get to see the rest of Bionis and be like, oh yeah, that's where I was over there looking at over here. So it's kind of cool. So the post game is there because, I mean, if you try to 100% this game, you're easily going to put in like 200 hours into this game. If you're looking for something where it's just like a nice, meaty RPG game to sink your teeth into, some game to just give you a nice, long, girthy time of play, and this is a game where you're going to have to do multiple playthroughs. You're going to have to do New Game Plus and go through this game multiple times to get everything, collect everything, because even all the way up until the end of the game, like, you don't get the True Minato till after you beat the boss. So even if you beat the boss and you continue your save file, you don't get the True Minato until you do New Game Plus. So you're almost required to do New Game Plus and then play through this game maybe multiple times to collect everything, see everything, beat everything. Building up Colony 6, I want to go back and flesh that out. I didn't even finish that the first time I played it on 3DS. So I want to go back and do Colony 6 and flesh that out. So the post game in this, the replayability is just off the charts, off the freaking charts. You can easily put in, 500 plus hours on this game and it's not the same. It's not the same experience each time you play it. You're adding to it. You're adding more story. You're adding more inventory, weapons, armor, gear. You're getting powered up. You're leveling to 99. You're getting all the gems, maxing them all out. So as you're going, it's like the power creep just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. And then you're taking on the super bosses in the game and things like that. So the post-game replayability is just massive in this game. I will be playing this for a long time. So in conclusion, I don't give scores on game reviews. What I will do say is I highly recommend Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for Nintendo Switch. you gotta get it. If you're into RPGs, you gotta get it. If you're into JRPGs, you definitely have to get it. You have to play it. If you're not even into RPGs, this game is action-packed enough that will pull you in and you'll forget you're playing an RPG game. So I definitely recommend it. Go check it out. But in the meantime, go ahead and check out my other reviews. I have Final Fantasy VII review. Go ahead and check that out. And make sure you check out the Tales of... what is it? I have it up here. Hold on, let me pull it up. The Trials of Mana. Go ahead and check out the Trials of Mana review up here on YouTube. Check out the links. But anyways, that's all for now. I highly recommend Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This has been the spoiler review on Huckleberry Show. I'm out.